Hi, everyone. I just want to talk to you today about certain things in the Bible that I believe people get confused, and quite honestly, they just skip right past things they don't understand or do not comprehend. They really just blow by the things that they don't understand and just look for the things that they do want to understand. So, therefore, the first thing we're going to do today is get some understanding.
Sparkling angel, I couldn't see your dark intentions, your feelings for me.
So, first up on the list here, guys, we have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And this is a very, very important lesson and something that's highly looked over. And, people really just don't think about what this tree could be and what it implies with its name. So let's say we just planted an apple tree, right? And the end game goal is to get not only apples, but good apples, right? Like we don't want any bad, spoiled, and not ripe apples. So now we are going to use our imagination. You are now this apple tree, okay? You are no longer you, and you are an apple tree. Now, as a tree, what are the most important things to you as a tree? And this is very simple. I mean, we all know this. You need water and sunlight. So let's take a look at the sunlight. And we all know that sunlight isn't a continuous thing, right? We know there's day and night cycles. So sunlight, you're not always going to get sunlight, okay? You will get shade, you'll get shadows, right? Or it'll just be the nighttime where it's completely blackout. So therefore, we already know that sunlight, since it's not a constant thing, it's a variable, okay? It's not always going to be the same, and it's something that is out of our control as a tree. So now we're going to step away from the tree, and now we're just going to be our normal selves. However, we are still the tree, okay? So you are always this tree. So now we're the farmer growing the tree, and we are the tree as well. So what we can do, what we can control, at least in a little bit, is the water the tree receives. So now onto the water, okay? So there are different types and qualities of water, and we're just gonna assume natural rain and natural water on the outside is we're just gonna call it well water, right? Like well you would get from one of the old school pumps, right? It doesn't taste greatest, it might taste coppery or whatever, but it is still water and you'll still drink it. Now, a tree alone, it just drinks the water it gets, okay? But we are a human and we are the tree. So, what are we going to do? We're going to taste test the water, correct? We're going to taste the water, we're going to look at it, examine it, make sure that everything is good and that this is actually purified 100% good water for your tree. Now, the water for this tree is actually the information and actions and the things that you sense and you take in and you take into your brain and you accept or you hold on to it, right, or you get rid of it. But this water is that it's the senses and the accumulation of everything that you receive in the real world. So this is obvious. I mean, like, let's say you get served, a piece of food that has huge, like a hair in it, right? You're not going to eat that, right? Or you have someone serves you a drink, right? Or you take a sip and it doesn't taste right, or it's just like it's like soda water, like you get a Coke or something, and it's just the soda water, right? It doesn't taste right, or you can see something floating in it. You don't just you don't consume that, right? We take a sip and we spit it out. Ew, that's disgusting, right? However, the situation isn't 100% negative in this situation, okay? Because if we break things down into little segments, we actually learn something. We actually learn something from this experience. So now we need to separate the negative parts from the positive parts, okay? The 100% bad negative things, we need to throw those away. We need to throw those on the ground, okay? Those things are trash. We need to throw them on the ground, right? But the positive parts we need to keep. We need to hold on to those. Now, this is where we get into the part about the knowledge of good and evil and how we separate them. And the way we do this is by getting a basic understanding of electrical currents and circuits.
Let's begin by looking at how a simple circuit allows a light bulb to light. A circuit is a route through which electrical current can flow. In our example, electrons flow from the negative side of a D-cell battery to a conducting material on the base of the bulb.
Now, the charge and the electrons coming from the negative terminal of the D-cell battery, once it hits the conductor at the bottom of the light bulb, which is circled in red here, this is the first form of defense for our tree. Now, we all know for any electrical circuit to work, we need a positive and a negative, okay? So no matter what comes through, right, you're always going to get a positive and a negative out of reality, okay? That's just the way things are. Now, as I said, the conductor at the bottom of the bulb is our first line of defense. So what you need to be careful of, because we're talking metaphorically electrical circuits, but this is how everything works. But you need to be very careful of the water you're receiving in, right? The charge that you are getting, because it is very possible that somebody or whatever you're receiving or you're perceiving is a double negative, right? It's a double negative, okay? So the conductor at the bottom of the bulb is literally there to block and essentially reflect or negate any type of double negative that could be coming into your system, right? It's like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Idiocracy, but basically it's in the future and like all the people are dumbed down and essentially all their crops are dying and all the crops are failing. And it's because they're literally feeding their crops Gatorade instead of water, okay? So that would be a double negative in this instant because, dude, Gatorade can't feed your plants. That's just how it works. You don't feed your plants Gatorade. That's just how it is. You can feed it well water, okay? You can feed it 100% purified water. Both those will do the job perfectly fine. However, the second we detect any type of double negative energy, we need to realize that this is corrosive. It's toxic. It's on fire. It's explosive, right? It's volatile, okay? So right at that point, we need to cut it off completely. Now, I dislike saying this, but I have to say it. I absolutely have to say it. Unfortunately, people really do not like Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving, okay? Thanksgiving is a double positive, okay? In our circuits, double positives are perfect. That's what we want. That's all we want, basically. We know it's not 100% possible, but, it's something as humans that we absolutely can do. So basically, you say thanks first, and then you give someone something, right? So you say thanks first, that's already a positive to the other person you're interacting with, and then you give them something. So that is a double positive. That's a double whammy. That is essentially, that's contagious. That's contagious. That's a pandemic right there. Now, unfortunately, everybody's favorite thing to do and their favorite holiday that they celebrate every single day for some reason because they're weird, I guess, but they hates taking. Hates taking, okay? So basically, they don't say thank you, they say piss off, and then they take something from you. So that's a double negative. That is a double negative. That's a pandemic. That's a pandemic. That's toxic. That's corrosive. That's volatile. And as you know, negatives repel each other. So not only are you repelling each other as people, but the energy that you give off is not only volatile and toxic and corrosive, to the touch or whatever, but it actually expands. And the more that's put out, the more that it pushes against each other and it separates and it expands. It's a pandemic, meaning it continually grows in size. So at this stage in our circuit, in our tree, We need to cut off these double negatives right away. We just need to be able to know what is double negative right off the bat before even thinking about it, because you know by the way it feels, right? And this is where you get the concept of the stone heart, basically, or like Medusa, like turning your heart to stone, is because when your heart is like that, you can't feel that double negative energy, and you actually end up taking it in. So this is something that we're actually going to fix. And in order to fix this, we need to take a look at some trees.
Plants' defenses start at their surface. The bark covering tree trunks is full of lignin, a rigid web of compounds that's tough to chew and highly impermeable to pathogens. Leaves are protected by a waxy cuticle that deters insects and microbes. Some plants go a step further with painful structures to warn would-be predators. Thorns, spines, and prickles. Plants' leaves have sharp, hair-like structures called trichomes. The kidney bean plant sports tiny hooks to stab the feet of bedbugs and other insects. In some species, trichomes also dispense chemical irritants. Stinging nettles release a mixture of histamine and other toxins that cause pain and inflammation when touched. Spinach, kiwi fruit, pineapple, fuchsia, and rhubarb all produce microscopic needle-shaped crystals called rhaphides. They can cause tiny wounds in the inside of animals' mouths, which create entry points for toxins. The mimosa plant has a strategy designed to prevent herbivores from taking a bite at all.
See, now the mimosa plant here is the perfect plant to show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Specialized mechanoreceptor cells detect touch and shoot an electrical signal through the leaflet to its base, causing cells there to release charged particles. The buildup of charge draws water out of these cells, and they shrivel, pulling the leaflet closed. The folding movement scares insects away.
So you can clearly see how the tree instantly retracts the second the bee or the insect or anything double negative touches it.
If these external defenses are breached, the plant immune system springs into action. Plants don't have a separate immune system like animals. Instead, every cell has the ability to detect and defend against invaders. Specialized receptors can recognize molecules that signal the presence of dangerous microbes or insects. In response, the immune system initiates a battery of defensive maneuvers. To prevent more pathogens from making their way inside, the waxy cuticle thickens and cell walls get stronger. Guard cells seal up pores in the leaves. And if microbes are devouring one section of the plant, those cells can self-destruct to quarantine the infection. Self-destruct. Self-destruct. Compounds toxic to microbes and insects are also produced.
That's some spicy ass water. Why though?
From there, the electrons flow up a wire that is inside the bulb and across the filament, which is the part of the bulb that actually lights. When the electrons go through the filament, some of the electrical energy is changed to heat and light energy. The electrons continue down another small wire inside the bulb to another conductor on the base of the bulb. The electrons finally make their way to the positive side of the battery. There would not be a complete circuit if the electrons did not travel to the positive side of the battery, and the bulb would not light. When there is an unbroken path on which electrons flow, as in this example, it is called a complete circuit. The unbroken path that the electrons follow is called a closed circuit because electricity will only flow on an unbroken path. The light bulb will not light unless there is a closed circuit.